Welcome to a brand new Planco series, or as a small percentage of the population who actually speak Welsh would say, CROESO. That's right, it's been quite some time, but I'm back with more of that sweet Planet Coaster content. Did you miss me? I've created a fair few parks on the channel at this point, but the one that seems to resonate the most with you lot is Worthington Farms, or as it's more commonly known, a very British park. And so with that, I'm happy to announce this shiny new series, a very Welsh park. As was decided during the first series, Worthington Farms is located somewhere in England, so for this series we're hopping over the border. And for those of you who don't know, yes, Wales is its own separate country. Crikey, this video is almost educational. So what's so unique about Wales to warrant its own park, I hear you cry? Well, not much to be honest. Aside from the fact all signage is in 2 languages and one of the national dishes is essentially cheese on toast with a splash of beer, oh yeah, and I live here, which I think we can all agree is the most important fact. So will this be a very Welsh park? Probably not, but I'll tell you one thing, it will be in Wales. So why on earth is this series called A Very Welsh Park then? I'll tell you why. Channel cohesion. So don't come at me when there isn't a Welsh dragon every square metre, okay? Now, I know what you're all thinking, it's all well and good saying Wales, but whereabouts? Well, don't worry, I've got you covered. On this stretch of the Llantrisant Road between Danes Court and Mydlava, only 5 miles from Cardiff, there's a whole heap of empty space, which is now an enormous construction site for new builds. But let us imagine they aren't building cardboard houses, and instead a brand new theme park for the capital of Wales. I know, details. But when it comes to realism, it pays to be precise. You'll see why the exact location matters shortly. Okay, that's far too much faffing. Let's start building a theme park. If you're not a fan of car parks and external roads, this won't be the episode for you, but stick around anyway, I promise to make it mildly interesting. As you can see, I'm making a start on the A4119 using terrain paint and some temporary concrete to keep a straight line. Next I'm adding some dirt to the edges, making this road as filthy as... Oh wait, this is a family-friendly channel. When applying terrain paint, I like to add as many varying textures as possible. Right now I'm adding a splash of asphalt. Well, they don't call me the Bob Ross of Planet Coaster for nothing. A road isn't much of a road without road markings. I added solid white lines to the side and precisely measured broken lines to the middle. It was during this time I realised quite how long I'd made this road, but considering this will span the width of our park, it makes sense. For the stretch of road outside the park, the speed limit would most likely be reduced to 30 miles an hour. To accompany this, I added some road markings in both English and Welsh. Time for the car park entrance already. Crikey, we're flying through. I created a lovely curved 90-degree junction using pavement pieces. A single yellow line in the UK means no parking or waiting during certain hours. In this case, it will be during the park's open hours. I decided on 1 lane for entering and 2 for exiting, figuring there's higher traffic when everyone leaves at closing time than there is of people arriving throughout the day. Also bearing in mind this is a relatively small park, so traffic shouldn't be much of an issue anyway. I hand-painted the appropriate lane markings before adding some directional arrows. Left lane is left only, and you guessed it, right lane right only. I decided against dedicated bus parking and instead went for a bus stop outside the grounds. This would be served by the number 62, which already drives this route. Gosh, the attention to detail. I of course added the stop, tactile paving, some cigarette butts and an ashtray that clearly isn't being utilised. Next came fencing, which was a bit of a faff, but a spot of overlapping worked nicely. This couldn't be a British park without a roundabout. It's no exaggeration when I say the measuring and execution of this roundabout took me over an hour. We all know working on an axis is an absolute breeze. It began as a 2-lane roundabout, but I later opted for 1 when I realised that trusting the general public to navigate it without crashing would be too much of a tall order. I created 4 exits and blended the whole thing with our existing road. In Planet Coaster, sightlines are key. On the very edge of my parks, I like to block all low-level view to hide the vast emptiness that lies behind it. For the south edge, some trees and foliage do the trick. A handy technique is to bury trees into the ground to create thick shrubbery quickly and easily. The foreground can then be occupied by smaller trees and bushes. I created some UK signage and stuck it on a couple of projection screens. Now do you see why the exact location was so important? God, you never trust me, do you? Back over at our roundabout, I tidied up the exits before making a start on a simple planter centerpiece. For the sign, I used fencing, facade scaffolding, and some TMTK lettering to say welcome on one side and bye on the other. In Welsh, of course. It's not gibberish, I promise. I jumped into Blender and made some custom UK road signs. These are already available to download on the workshop. Stop it. I wouldn't say I'm a hero, just a humble creator. Time for the car park. Goodness, I need to lie down. After more intense measuring, I cracked on with some line painting. Yes, that was me pretending to drive a car to make sure they can reverse out of the spaces okay. Aren't I adorable? For the car park perimeter, I went with chain link fencing because I was feeling adventurous. Here's a cheeky look at my national speed limit sign. Seriously, go and download them. They're not bad. To add some spicy variation to our car park, I used an alternate tarmac. Quite overwhelming. Once again, I added various different accents and highlights to the terrain, but then I go over it again with the original paint for ultimate subtlety. Time for some more arrows for drivers to somehow ignore and go the wrong way. Follow me and my pavement as we slowly but surely edge closer to the park itself. The tension is unbearable. Or frustrating, take your pick. Our park of course needs blue badge parking for disabled patrons. I made these extra wide to allow for wheelchair access. Your eyes do not deceive you. I'm placing a path, yes, something that actually functions in the game. But as you can see, the excitement was too much for me, so I went back to my road. Okay fine, I'll do more pathing, thus creating a pick-up and drop-off lay-by, almost unbearably interesting. Perhaps I should have been a line painter. Surely it's not that different to placing art shapes to resemble lines in a video game. But Moomin, shouldn't that be a dashed line? Bet you weren't expecting that. Here I'm doing some things and other stuff. I'm extending the road. I mean, what do you want me to say? I know you're desperate to know what the end section is for, well, wonder no more, as it's emergency vehicle parking. Don't fret, I later went back and added the Welsh translation to this. You'll have to forgive me for my momentary lapse of judgment. Here, look, this is me actually building a thing. It's an automated gate, very exciting. This would only be used by staff and emergency vehicles for access to the service road, which I'm conveniently creating now, utterly seamless. A few texture details and that's us done for the day. It may just be a very non-functioning car park, but I hope you can see it sets the scene for our future very Welsh park. Enjoy the cinematics and I'll see you next week.